All right. So you wrote about the Phillies. Now, I live outside of Philly, and so I'm following the team, but I also played for the 15 Royals, where you mentioned about the Tigers in 2015. And I saw that team from 14 to 15 and how, they were kind of in it, not really in it. So I really want to hear what you have to say about the Phillies and what Dombrowski is talking about.
Well, I asked Dave Dombrowski about that because he was the president of baseball operations for the 2015 Tigers, as he is for the 2023 Phillies. And actually, I got the idea because another executive mentioned it to me the other day, basically saying, I wonder if Dombrowski will do the same thing with these Phillies if they don't start playing better. And that is essentially tear down the team. 2015 Tigers, they had some injuries. They weren't playing well at the deadline. They were sort of in the wild card race, but under 500. And Dombrowski pivoted at the last minute. I remember it. The deadline was maybe on a Wednesday or Thursday, and that weekend before, he called teams and said, I'm ready to go. They traded David Price, they traded Joakim Soria, and they traded Yoenis Cespedes. Those deals actually were his final acts as the head of the baseball operation in Detroit. He was let go like 2 weeks later. But the question is the Phillies situation analogous? And in his view, it really isn't. And it isn't for a few reasons. One, they've invested a franchise record amount of money in this team, 240 plus million. There also is an additional wild card now. So there's an easier path to get into the playoffs. And who knows that better than the Phillies, who grabbed the extra wild card last year, went all the way to the World Series, and could have won it if not for a few things that happened. So it's not really the same kind of situation, but at the same time, we've got a number of struggling teams, three others really in the National League: the Cardinals, the Mets, and the Padres. If one of them or more than one of them does not get it going, they're going to have some hard questions to answer. Now, because of the playoff format and because the quality of the National League is so mediocre, probably no team will be willing to rule itself out with 2 months to go. But at the same time, if that happens, it becomes a different sort of equation. And it's interesting. John Mozeliak of the Cardinals, he just did an interview with Katie Woo of The Athletic. I was just reading it before we came on. And about 2 weeks ago, if I recall correctly, he told the Bally Sports Midwest reporter Jim Hayes that they will not sell. He didn't say that to Katie Woo. He said, we want to play better. We're hoping to play better, and we'll judge it over the next few weeks. So it's crunch time now. It's getting to really be crunch time, and teams are going to have decisions to make. And I'm not talking just about these four teams, but other teams that are kind of not knowing where they are really. The White Sox are a good example of that. They're in it because of where the standings say they are. Are they playing well enough? Well, I don't know that you could say that.
Top body there.
It's really good stuff. I'm going to switch gears to the Astros. Yeah?
I'm here.
You got me, Ken?
Yeah.
I got you, brother.
Yeah, we got you, top five.
No doubt. All right, sorry about that. I want to switch gears to the Houston Astros, man. And inside, I'm like, how are these guys still doing this? I'm not the biggest Astros fans, as we know, in 17 back in the day. But it just seems like, Dusty Baker, he does what he does with all these pitching injuries, and they're still doing what they do best, man. Can you explain any of that to me? Because I'm like, here we go again.
Well, it is impressive because think about it. They've been without McCullers all year, Garcia and Urquidy for most of the year. And they've brought up some kids, JP France, Brandon Bielak, and they've gotten great production out of them. Now, these guys have been a little bit over their head. If you look at some of their underlying metrics, they're probably due for a regression. But it's a tribute to the Astros pitching development, which has been so strong for many years, but continues to be strong. Their major league pitching coaches, their minor league pitching coaches, they get these guys to the big leagues. Blanco is another one now, and they seem to perform. And Hunter Brown, of course, he's in this category as well. He's a rookie, but he's extremely talented, a high draft pick. It's just impressive that they've been able to patch it together without McCullers and those other two. Now, does Urquidy come back? We'll see. Does McCullers come back? It seems less likely by the day. So they're going to face some interesting questions at the deadline as well. Michael Brantley's still out. If Michael Brantley is not back full strength, they're going to need a hitter. They're getting by with Jolks in left field, but obviously he's not Michael Brantley. No one would expect him to be. But at the same time, if Urquidy doesn't come back, or worse, if they suffer another pitching injury, they're going to need help in the rotation. And that is ultimately where they have to, or may have to, focus their attention. Problem, as we've discussed before, guys, is that there might not be a number of quality starters available. The market is thin.
How thin? And part of that question has to do with Shane Bieber. So I know in your notes column in The Athletic, you wrote about him as well. And Zach Buchanan wrote an article about what's next for Cleveland. So what are your thoughts about what they do? Because I will say, if history has anything to do with it, Cleveland's done a really nice job of saying, okay, we've got a couple years left of this guy, time to maximize our return, and we move on and we keep growing more pitching prospects homegrown.
They certainly have a number right now, Scott. And we talk about pitching development, they're at the forefront as well. Maybe the team to envy the most in that regard. Trevor Bauer, Mike Clevenger, Corey Kluber. You just mentioned what they've done in the past. Those guys have gone with a year plus remaining of control. Shane Bieber right now, a year plus remaining of control. He could be the lead guy out there with Eduardo Rodriguez hurt, with Corbin Burns pitching for a contender. It might be that Shane Bieber is one of the 2 or 3 best pitchers available. The problem with Bieber right now is that while his surface metrics or surface statistics are good, ERA is good, 3.67, and it's really inflated by one bad start. The underlying stuff is troubling to a lot of people around the game, people with other clubs. It's the velocity that's down something like 3 miles an hour from the last 2 years. It's the hard hit percentage, which is up. It's all of these things. The strikeout rate is down. All of these trends that are pointing downward that make him, perhaps to some, a risk. Now, he was the 2020 American League Cy Young Award winner. He has obviously figured out some things while pitching with lesser stuff. But the way teams look at these guys today, the question then becomes, well, would the Guardians get enough for Bieber, get what they want? They generally set a high bar, and they don't come off their price. Teams kind of complain about them, but that's what they do. And it's not like they don't make trades. They make plenty of trades. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this develops. Also will depend how he pitches over the next 2 months. Marcus Stroman is one of the guys I should mention that obviously is a possible piece to be had, and he is pitching at an extremely high level right now. So there will be guys out there. I trust that there will be. There always are. And if there aren't, teams will not be able to sit still. You know these guys, Todd, Eric, the GMs, they can't just sit there and let the deadline pass without getting all itchy. So stuff's going to happen. It just might not be as big as some of the things we've seen in recent years.
Or it could be huge, right? Marcus Stroman to the Marlins.
Marcus Stroman is a big piece, but at the same time, he's not Max Scherzer, at least what Scherzer was when he was traded a couple of years ago. Hey, if Marcus Stroman keeps pitching as well as he has, maybe he is that guy. And, of course, there is still, until the deadline passes, always the non-zero chance that the Angels will move Ohtani. I don't see it happening. They're going to try to stay in this thing as long as they can and even beyond, because they've invested a lot in this team. They've put a lot into it. We've talked about this, aggressively promoting prospects, bringing in a bunch of veterans in the offseason. They're not here to tear it down on August 1st. But if it happens that they are in a really bad spot, who knows? Maybe Ohtani becomes available. And at that point, then you've got a trade deadline.
See, I know what you were doing there, Kratzy. He's trying to transition all nice and cute because he's a host now, media personality, into the Marlins. Wait, but I'm going to save you because you're my boy. You can't say Stro to the Marlins because you know what'll happen. Marlins fans, because you're just being fun, will go on Twitter and they'll go, "How dare you? We have a rotation already. We don't need Stroman, blah blah blah. We need a bat," which is true. So I know you want to talk about the Marlins, but that's not their primary need. They've got pitching. Kratzy, am I correct?
Yeah, they do, but everybody needs a Marcus Stroman. So you can hit me up, Eric Kratz 31. So no, Ken, I want to talk about the Marlins because They are. Who would have said on June 7th that Sandy Alcantara has a 5+ ERA? I had to write all this down. They have a -29 run differential, and they have the 4th best record in the National League. But is it going to last?
I don't know, but I give them a lot of credit for what they've done. And the run differential is a little bit misleading. This was explained to me by someone with the Marlins last night when I called. That person told me, listen, look at April. We lost 3 games by a combined 33 runs. That skewered the run differential. Since May 9th, they are on a 17-9 run. They've been really one of the best teams in baseball. And offensively, though Scott is right, that is their need. They're 6th in the league in runs per game over nearly a month span now. So they've got some good things going. Brian De La Cruz, Jesus Sanchez, Soler, of course, and Arise. My goodness, it's a joy to watch him play. Chisholm will come back. That should help them as well. Offensively, can they keep it up? I don't know. But they're benefiting in part from all of the teams that I mentioned earlier that are not playing well. Mets, Phillies in their own division, Padres, Cardinals, and other divisions, the mediocrity of the Central. The league, the National League, is just not that strong. So I'm not saying the Marlins are going to contend all year, but they did some things in the offseason to improve their bullpen, which have worked. They also did some things to upgrade their offense, particularly their contact ability with Arise, and that has worked as well. Gene Segura has not worked out to this point, but I still expect him to be the player he has always been in the past. So I don't see them going to the World Series, but they're on a good run here, and you know what? Give them credit. Season's almost half over, and they've done a good job.